Hi, my name is Janessa, and I will be talking to you today about the Mongol women and how they affected Christianity today. Um, I have a cool laser pointer, so I'll be pointing to a couple of things. We should only be here for a few minutes, but the way that they impacted really who all of us are today is so far and beyond what I assumed when I first started my research, but I think that you will enjoy this. So, our first look is at the cons. This is obviously not them, but this is a wax replica of Genghis Khan or Temujin or Chinggis. He's got a few different names or translations. And then next to him is his wife, Borte, which we'll get into again in a minute, because I'm sure most of us have heard that Genghis Khan had many wives. So right after this, we will get into that. The word Khan really means ruler or king. So Genghis Khan is his name, and then he was the king at the moment, or the emperor, or the ruler in that moment in time. So next, this slide says the women who built the empire. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these women that you see here. And then I have this quote, which is really astute as far as truly who Genghis Khan was. This is probably his most well-known quote. You might have heard, I think it was, somebody in Conan the Barbarian said this exact quote, and so it was pretty much stolen from Genghis Khan. It says, "The greatest happiness is to scatter your enemy and drive him before you, to see his cities reduced to ashes, to see those who love him shrouded and in tears, and to gather to your bosom his wives and daughters." And Genghis Khan and the Mongol men were really well known for conquering different areas and taking the most beautiful of all the women in order to make them their brides. So that is a pretty accurate quote for who they are. The women who built the empire. So Borte, which is the woman we saw in the previous screen, that was Genghis Khan's first wife. They were married before or around the time that he was 19, and she was kidnapped. She was kidnapped from him because that was something that the tribes all did, and so she was kidnapped and then came back to him pregnant. So we're not sure if he was the father or if the person who kidnapped her was the father. But regardless, he treated that son as his own his whole life. So that was great job, Genghis. Great job. Borte was beloved among all the brides that he had, which were hundreds and thousands of brides. But she was the most loved. And that might be because they were betrothed to be married when they were 11, right? Um, or she might have just been really good in her role. So yeah, that was Genghis's first battle, really, and what set in motion what was to come for the entire Mongol Empire was when Borte was stolen and kidnapped. And so that was his first win and really led to him becoming a Khan and becoming the greatest of all of them. Holland I'm going to pronounce her name is Helen because I don't know how to pronounce it. But so Helen is Genghis Khan's mother, and she was also kidnapped when she was younger, when she was already a mother to Genghis. And she supported Genghis his whole life. And she truly championed him. Her and Borte were very close, and they each helped one another with all that needed to be done in the empire. So Torjine, she might be my favorite. I don't know why. In my research, she was the one that really stood out to me. And I kind of wanted to do my research just on her based on what I had seen then. But Torjine was the daughter-in-law of Genghis and Borte. She married, oh, I don't remember, it's Origene, which is Genghis Khan's third son. And he was a lush. He was just really loved being drunk all the time. And he passed away pretty early on, like earlier than necessary. It was under suspicious circumstances, so I'm almost convinced that she poisoned him somehow in his alcohol. But this woman ruled. So when a Khan passes away, the wife, the first wife, who is the actual only legal wife, takes over and becomes what is known as a regent, which is essentially a Khan, just with a different word, a different name. She was the most successful empress. She was the most well renowned as well. She was kind, and she really ran the empire with love. But man, that woman, she was concise. She made a difference, and it's really cool to see all that she did. Oghul, she is Torjine's daughter, and she also became a regent. And so she followed in her own mother's footsteps, and she was a little bit more filthy. She was more like, let's destroy everybody. She was absolutely okay with that. And then Sorkotani is the contester. So Sorkotani, we're gonna call her Sorko. Sorko was the contester. So Ogul Gamash, the regent granddaughter-in-law, she didn't think that Sorko didn't think that Ogul should be in that role as regent. So Sorko, I can't even say Sorko. So Sorko decided that she was going to fight for her son to take the throne. And it worked out. She murdered her. Or she didn't murder her, but she had her murdered. So next is another quote from Genghis Khan, which I think is actually a little bit ironic. Based on, if you know what minimal people know about him, you know certain things that are just like murderous. But this empire was very forward. And so really everything that Genghis Khan did was truly with a very, yes, instinctual mind, but also very much, it was very, well, I can't think of the word, with purpose. It was purposeful. So this quote says, an action committed in anger is an action doomed to failure. Genghis Khan never did anything that, he never did anything out of anger. He was very planned, thought it out, really understood what he was doing, why he was doing it, and really put the right people in place. One thing about Genghis Khan that was very forward for his time was that he put people in place that weren't because he was related to them. He put them in place because of who they were and the merit that they had in their community. So, good guy Genghis, I had to put this on there. This is the best way to describe Genghis Khan and the empire of the Mongols that he helped build. It says Genghis forbade the selling of women, theft of others' properties, decreed religious freedom, outlawed hunting during breeding season, and exempted the poor from taxation. At the time, every other empire, every other government truly did not believe that women should have any amount of rights, any amount of freedom. They could not steal, you're not supposed to steal other people's property, unless I guess it is women. There were a lot of things that he had ruled that he never followed. So that was kind of a bummer. Um, my favorite is that he decreed religious freedom, which even today there are so many countries that do not have religious freedom. So it was so forward for his time to really believe in that. And then he outlawed hunting during breeding season, which is just wisdom, just straight wisdom, because honestly, if you hunt during breeding season, you can't hunt again later on. And then something that was really important was the exempting the poor from taxation. He really believed that the poor should be exempt from taxation because the rich had so much money. The rich never stayed rich in the Mongol Empire. They always gave and gave and gave because that's how Genghis wanted it. And then religion in the Mongol Empire. So really this is the whole purpose and why I did this paper, because it was important to me that I understood what was going on in the Mongol Empire and how it relates to how we do even Christianity today. I put this quote in there. He said, "I am the wrath of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you." Um, I do not like that quote. However, it is something that he is known to have said, and it really points to how Genghis, related to religion. So religious freedom is something that the Mongols aren't as well known for as they should be, but it's something, like I said on the last slide, something that it was so forward and something that they truly believed. They believed in the sky god, and they were more spiritual than anything. However, they really truly, because they were conquering so many other nations, so many other areas of the country, or of the continent, they truly believed in religious freedom, that everyone should be able to believe what they believe, and they weren't going to force their beliefs on another area of the continent, which is something I really respect as a Christian, because first of all, we live in America, which is the land of the free, and we are in our Constitution is religious freedom. So for me, it's something that I think is really important, because if we force our religion on somebody, they have an opportunity to say no. But if we love them into relationship, we love them into understanding, then they're more likely than not to believe what we believe. And that's just something that I've personally experienced. Love will get you everywhere. Obviously, that's not the route that Temujin took, or Genghis took, but for our understanding and our knowledge, then that's the way we would want to expand our empire, our kingdom mindedness. Toragine. I mentioned that she was my favorite earlier, and one of the reasons is because she was very knowledgeable, intelligent, and she understood how to do things. She was also a Christian. So Toragine was captured. That's how we captured our wives back then, right? So she was captured from a province that was primarily Christian, and she stayed that way. And the idea that she was able to stay that way in such a violence heavy empire is wild to me. And she also ruled extremely well, which tells me that she probably prayed every day. She probably asked for strength every day. She probably asked for wisdom every day. And she probably got it. That's what that tells me. She probably got that as a regent. Temujin, of course, we talked about him. That's Genghis. He had 3 different names over the course of his life, and it really just depends on the dialect and the area that you're reading his works from. But Temujin, like I said, he believed in a sky god, and he was very spiritual. They were very natural. Like he worshipped the earth, and he worshipped all that was around him. And his worship probably looked a lot different than ours. And I think he truly believed that his God had sent him to truly eradicate all things that were evil, which is really interesting when you think about it because of how he did it. The Silk Road is the last thing I want to talk about on the slide. The Silk Road was rebuilt by the Mongols near the end of Temujin's life. I truly believe that if we did not have the Silk Road, yes, they used it for conquering. Excuse me. Yes, they used it for conquering. They used it to take over land and murder everyone along the way. But if we didn't have the Silk Road, we would not have spread Christianity. We would not have the opportunity to spread religion. We would not have the opportunity to truly have been missionaries back in the day, back in 1200s, 1300s, without being able to travel through Europe, through China, through all of Asia, and down into the Mongol Empire spread almost all of the Asian and European continent. There was almost no place. It went from Russia to almost India over to Japan. There was almost nowhere that the Mongols did not touch. And so the Silk Road was opened back up by the Mongols, and truly they helped with the spread of the gospel, whether they meant to do it that way or not. And that really just goes to show that God makes everything work out for his good. So, in conclusion, one last quote, because I don't know, that he's so quotable. He says, this is Genghis Khan. He says, remember, you have no companions but your shadow. He was a lone wolf. He was very, he tried. He did it. He did what he could. And I agree with him when he says you have no companions but your shadow. However, I do believe that your shadow can be your wives, can be the women warriors that you're surrounded with, can be your friends, can be your family. You choose your shadow. So Genghis, you did a great job with what you set out to do. Really proud of you. And good job, man. Good job.